Yo, what's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte. So today we are continuing our preseason rankings and previews for the NHL season coming up here. And today we're looking at the Colorado Avalanche. There's a lot of things to like about the Colorado Avalanche going into the 2024-25 NHL season. So let me know what you guys think down below. Leave your predictions. Where do you think the Avalanche will finish in this year's standings? All right, so with that out of the way, let's take a look at this newly retooled, revamped Colorado Avalanche. Things look a little different than they did last spring. So looking at the top line, that's going to stay the same. Drouin, McKinnon, and Rantanen. That's going to stay the same. The second line's going to be an interesting one. You have a couple of changes here. Casey Mittelstadt's going to be projected as the second line center alongside Nikolai Kovalenko and Arturi Lehkonen. So that's your second line. That could end up being a really solid line for the Colorado Avalanche. Third line, you got Wood, Colton, and O'Connor. And then Yoel Kiviranta, Wagner, and Parker Kelly, who's still hanging it out here in the NHL. The defense is really the strength of this team. You look at their blue line, you've got the best defensive pairing in the league, in my opinion. That's Devon Toews and Cale Makar. And then your second pair, you got Sammy Girard and Josh Manson. And then your third pair, you got Brandstrom and Oliver Chillington. And then in between the pipes, you've got Alexander Georgiev and Justin Anunin. Both those guys have been around for the Avalanche. Nothing really crazy. No real changes in those regards. Couple of injuries and a couple of guys that are out that are notable. Logan O'Connor still on IR. Same thing for Gabe Landeskog. He missed all of last season with an injury after surgery from the Stanley Cup playoffs before that when they won the Cup. And Val Nichushkin. And we know the situation with him. He is, I believe he's suspended for the first half of the season. He's had some off-ice issues and things going on. So he will not be in the lineup to start the season. And that's a pretty big one for the Colorado Avalanche. So overall, looking at this team, there's a lot of things to like about the Avs. This is a team that's going to be one of the top teams in that Central Division. No doubt about it. The question is, did they do enough to replace some of the guys that left? And I think they did. I think Nikolai Kovalenko will end up replacing Nichushkin. I think Casey Mittelstadt's a very serviceable player. Is he a second-line center? We're going to be finding that out here this season. The defense is solid, especially that top four. I think that's really, really, really good for the Colorado Avalanche. We know Manson, maybe he's a little overpaid, but he's a good hockey player. And same thing for the rest of that group. And when you have the best defensive pairing in the league with Toews and Makar, that's going to be tough to beat. The biggest issue I see with this team is how does Georgiev and Anunin play this season? That is going to be a key factor for the Avalanche in terms of winning a Stanley Cup in 2025. They need to be able to have a goalie that can outduel or at least stay at the level of some of these high-end goalies, specifically in the Western Conference right now. Looking at guys like Connor Hellebuck, Thatcher Demko, this is tough. That Western Conference has some really good goalies, Jake Ottinger, right? So Colorado's got to make sure they have enough there to stabilize that back end and limit the opportunities to kind of maybe expose the goaltending situation. Overall, I think the Avalanche, like we know what this team's about. You know, you've still got, you have Rantanen and McKinnon. You know what you're getting from those guys. It's more so, do the pieces in the bottom six and the pieces that plug into the top nine, how do those guys fit in? And do they fit in to the point where the Avalanche can win 40 to 50 games next season? And I think they can do that. And I don't think that's really much of the question we're talking about here for the Avs. It's not a matter of if they make the playoffs, it's when they make the playoffs in 2025. And how far in those playoffs do they get? Because this is a team that is a playoff caliber team, year in and year out pretty much. The question is, can they repeat? Can they get another Stanley Cup here under this current core of Rantanen, McKinnon, Makar? That's going to be the key factor here for the Colorado Avalanche. And I think that despite that division getting better this year, I think teams like Utah are going to be a lot better than they were last year. I could see teams even in the other side in the Pacific getting a little bit better, like Anaheim, Seattle. I don't see them as much of a threat to the Avalanche, so I still expect the Avalanche to win those games against those types of teams. The question is, where do they fall in their current division? Because you look at teams like, I look at a team like the Dallas Stars, who's probably their biggest competition in that division. Winnipeg won the division last year, so they're doing a couple things right. So, are the Colorado Avalanche going to win the division? I absolutely think that's a possibility, but I'm not necessarily sold yet that that is what is going to happen. I think Dallas, like I said, has a really solid team. I think Nashville is going to come onto the scene this year and really make some noise in that division. Ultimately looking at my final division standings, I still think very highly of Colorado. I still have them predicted to win the division, but that goaltending does give me some pause. That's the only thing that I'm kind of looking here, and I'm saying I don't necessarily know. And it's not even a knock on Georgiev and a Noonan. Well, it is, but I don't think that with the way that the Avalanche team is structured, they kind of look at it like, listen, we had Darcy Kemper who got hot at the right time for us. That's kind of what we're going to do with the rest of our goalies. We've got the lineup. It's just we need a goalie that can get in there at the right time and do what they need to do. That's kind of what they're doing here. So I think it can work for the Avalanche. And like I said, really the names you need to watch for this year, I think Kovalenko is a big name there for the Avalanche. They want to see him really turn it on. Casey Middlestat had a really good stretch down the end of the regular season. Yeah, things didn't go so well for him in the playoffs, but he had a good regular season. He had shown that in the Colorado Avalanche sweater, he can produce, he can score goals. I think that's going to be a big net benefit for the Avalanche this season. And I think there are enough veterans on this team, because you could sit here and say, well, there's not a lot of veterans. Well, Parker Kelly's been around for a very long time. Same thing for Chris Wagner at this point. And then on the blue line, Brandstrom maybe didn't develop the way that Ottawa would have hoped, but he's still a good prospect. And then, like I said, everyone has their thoughts one way or the other about Sammy Girard. He's a top 4 defenseman in the National Hockey League. So, like I said, I think at the end of the day, can those guys that we talk about. We know what we're getting from Rantanen. We know what we're getting from McKinnon, Taves, Makar. We know what we're getting from them. What about the guys like Drouin and Middlestat and Lehkonen that came in and are kind of that secondary scoring depth? Are they going to be able to do what they need to do in order for the Avalanche to go on a run? That's really what this season comes down to for the Avs. So my prediction is I do think the Avalanche make the playoffs, and not only do I think they're going to make the playoffs, but I think they're going to win the Central Division in 2025 with 110 points. I think it's going to be a tighter division. I don't think we're going to see any teams hitting that 120 mark. This is a competent division. You have Minnesota, St. Louis, Utah, Winnipeg, Nashville, Dallas. All those teams are going to be chomping at the heels of Colorado. Colorado's not going to have it as easy as they have the last couple years, but I still think they have enough to get it done. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What do you think of the Colorado Avalanche? Do you think they make the playoffs? Do you think they win the division? Do you think they win the Stanley Cup? I'd love to know what you guys think down below. As always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you again next time.